Welcome to South Carolina Renters Forum. I'm Adrian Pelkis. I'm here with our host tonight, Mr. Tom Ledbetter with Midlands Technical College. Hello, Tom, and good evening.
How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. How about yourself?
Doing good. Doing good.
Cool. I'd like to start off, of course, as we do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's see, it's page down. We get a flag here. There we go. Pledge of Allegiance time, folks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball. Play ball.
How did that come about?
That's just Jerry started it. Jerry Balloon.
No? Okay. All right. All right. It's a tradition in our Rotary Club. At the end of that saying, we do, somebody goes, play ball. Great way to start the day. So, I'd like to remind you all that, as we said, the Pledge of Allegiance, we're actually in honor of our U.S. Constitution, and one of the reasons we're here tonight is because the Constitution gave us inventors the right to have the rights to our ideas for a limited time. And some of those rights have been eroding right from under our feet. And we're going to discuss that tonight and what it's entailed and what it's doing to us. Okay. I want to start off as we do by thanking the supporters and presenters as we had. Tonight joining us will be the first speaker we had last year, which was Doug Lineberry from Burr, the IP firm right in town. The rest of these speakers that we had last year, I'm going to introduce them and hope they'll return next year and can if we ask them. And one was Lindsay Brooks, who talked about the power of pitching. Our friend here in town, John Carrington, talked about his 3D printing and the success he had with Z-Verse and their personal protective gear. Marty Wilson was gracious to tell us about what the manufacturing capabilities are at Flex. And our friend Chris Guerrera showed and told to us about his manufacturing capabilities and way he helps inventors prototype and develop products. Our marketing expert here in town, Michelle Dugard, came aboard and gave us a great presentation on marketing. Warren Tuttle, who was the past president of UIA and the National Council with the USPTO for expanding the innovation. Also author of the book Inventor Confidential, was a speaker. We're delighted to have him talk. And The Honest Guide to Profitable Inventing is a book I do highly recommend to people just starting out in this industry of being an inventor. We're also very happy to talk and meet with Satish Kumali, who's the co-founder of Track It Now, using internet technology to trace and track deadly insects, mosquitoes and such. Our own videographer, Dr. Thaddeus Jones, came aboard and gave us the 10 tips for video marketing. And we are still delighted he is one of the board members who helps us video and load up our videos on the YouTube. Last two speakers to talk about are Carmen Donesco and Randy Landrenew that have come aboard and in the past have spoken about what's going on in the patent world as well. So that was last year's speakers, as well as some other local speakers. The next thing up is our Motivational Minute with Brian. Hello, Brian. I'm delighted.
Hi, guys.
Delighted to see you here tonight. I always love introducing you as a John Maxwell graduate and author of this book. And I really wanted to point out that you are a fantastic coach and motivator here in town, and do keep a good social media presence. And oftentimes you're honestly reposting things that are helpful and delightful. What I really appreciate is when I see some of your true self come through, and was very evident this week when you put this saying out that I did enjoy and actually touched on, because it touched me a little bit. This is something, Brian, that you said, a ship anchored in a safe harbor is not doing what it's made to do. Ships are made to sail. Choose to be the sail in people's lives, not an anchor. Happy Purple Thursday. Let's get motivated. Anyway, great saying. And what else can you share with us here tonight, Brian? That was a great piece of wisdom there.
Well, thank you, Adrian. It's been a little time since I've been here, but as you all know, or maybe you don't know, I do a Facebook live feed on Thursday nights, It's called The Point, and it is a great time. It's all about motivation. It got started from a friend of mine, Dana Jacobs, who is a racing instructor for the Philwicks Driving Academy, and she races Mini Coopers. So she's like the fastest Mini Cooper driver in the world, and we all share a love of cars. And her thing is purple, so we did Purple Thursday for her, and it's all about motivation. And Adrian, you bring up a good point. What I try to do in my social media presence and in my feeds is I try to bring in world-class coaches and world-class information and world-class material to give that tribe of mine access to what most of the world doesn't have access to. One of the great coaches that I've had on is Brandon Lee in Atlanta, Georgia. Brandon is one of the greatest technology guys. He's bought and sold information companies. He's out of California, but he lives in Atlanta now. But he's one of the best coaches, and he helps to coach me. But I am an executive director with the John Maxwell team, and I have my own company called Brian Pearson Enterprises. I coach executive C-suite folks. I also work with mid-level and large corporations under the guise of performance, motivation, business strategy, you name it. It's all comprehensive, but it's about getting the best out of things. And I had the opportunity today to teach a class on everyone communicates and few connect. So for inventors, one of the things that you have to do is you have to clearly get your message out. You have to clearly communicate, and you have to clearly connect. Not everyone is good at it, but it is a teachable skill. So I just want you to know that this week on The Point, we're working on one of 4 things that we've talked about regarding your personal boundaries and your professional boundaries. So as you start to talk about patents and those types of things, you are not at the will of everyone else. You have boundaries that you can set, lines that can be drawn, and the root cause of conflict is unclear expectations. So the four topics that we're covering is personal boundaries, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, and intellectual boundaries. So I think intellectual is the one we're going to cover last week, Adrian, but it would tie directly in with what you guys are doing. So I just tell you to be thinking about your boundaries and being very critical about who you allow into your inner circle. You need a doorman at the front of that door that goes into your inner circle, especially when you're thinking about things that you have to invent and working with things that you don't want to get out until it's had a patent or a patent's pending. So just be thinking about that and really take a hard look at your inner circle. I heard it said this way, if you don't have a circle, then you're really in a cage. So if you can keep it to the number of fingers that you have on your hand for your inner circle, maybe 5 people, that's a really good thing. And it's a great resource, folks. So anyway, I appreciate that. We're headed to the hotel tonight. We're going to try to get this renovation done at the house. And I sincerely appreciate the time with you guys, and I have missed you.
Oh, well, Brian, thank you so much. And it's so true. And it touches my heart because, right, the people you choose to be in your circle can make or break you. Absolutely. I suffered that problem a few years ago, and there's still remnants of the effects of that still lingering. It's absolutely essential. Brian, thank you so much. Good luck with that renovation. Hope to
All
see you
right.
again. All
Okay.
right.
I'm headed to the hotel. So see you guys later.
Right
Take
on.
care.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Okay. Now, where's my clicker here? Hit the clicker here, do a page down there. All right, next up is our next special guest. Before our big guest tonight, thank you so much, Daniel, for coming aboard. And first segment tonight about working networks. Daniel is a professional network here in town, well-known and established networks in action professional. And we're delighted to have you aboard here tonight, Daniel, to share with us some tips, if you will, please, about what makes networks work.
Sure. I think the core concept is that if you want it to work for the long haul, you have to treat it as if it's a relationship for the long haul. I definitely specialize in helping people turn casual business connections into profitable business relationships. And the root of that is to treat every element of it as if you plan to be in business with this person for a long time. And I guess I should even back up a little further. I'm sorry, I could have started with this concept. Networking is not prospecting. Networking should ultimately take you to prospects. But if you're engaging with people in a networking setting, no matter what it is, with the idea of deciding, can this person buy something from me or not, then you're really shortchanging yourself and them. Because more important than a customer, or even two, or maybe even more important than 10 customers, can be somebody who can refer customers to you for the length of their career or your career. And I guess the simplest example, of course, would be a mortgage lender or mortgage broker, I should say, and a real estate agent. They may never actually buy anything from each other, but they can do a lot of good for each other. And there's a lot of other related industries like that. So if you're working with the idea that I can find people that I can support and can support me over the long haul, you'll treat it correctly and you'll build it correctly. And when I say over the long haul, I don't mean that you should necessarily take a long time reaching the point where you two can do business together. It just means that you're treating the friendship, the business relationship the way you would a friendship, and you're staying in touch and seeing how you can help and how you can support. And it's obviously the sort of thing that you don't teach or collect all the information you need on how to do that in just a few minutes or a few sentences or even a book or two, because there's plenty of books on how to do it well. But if you get some good information and practice it over time, if you work with a coach on something like that, if you join an appropriate network, because they're not all created equal, and learn to work with the people inside that network to grow and support each other, you can definitely build something that will last. And you know, the phrase "people do business with folks they know, like, and trust," the most important word in that sentence is the word business. Meaning, if all you're doing is focusing on building friendships, then that's all you'll ever get. That doesn't mean you have to be cutthroat. It doesn't mean you have to ask for business or referrals right away, although different people have different speeds with which they feel comfortable referring folks. But it does mean that you can keep the conversation moving in a business direction every time you encounter the other person, and let them know that you want to build a business relationship built on the ability to support and refer each other. And that can make a lot of difference. So if you find yourself in the right places, or if you find the right places to be, or the right people to network with, and you treat them like business partners and not just people to prospect or to wring a transaction out of and move on to the next person, then it's going to make a world of difference in the way you function and your long-term success.
Indeed. Awesome. Exactly, Daniel. And some of that is along the lines of what the speaker this morning at 1 Million Cups said. It's still ringing in my ears today. He says, you shouldn't be counting your contacts. You should be the contacts that count, or what matter. And so, yeah, some people go about networking as a matter of just how to collect a lot of business cards. So they think that they have a bigger asset. They don't. If there's no quality in any of those contacts, they'll never lead to anything. So, awesome points, Daniel. Thank you so much for chiming in tonight and giving us some inputs. Appreciate it. Hope you'll chime in again next month again, and we'll continue these sort of great advice for people. Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you so much. All right, let's move it on. I always like showing the flag between segments because we're American. We're American. Okay, next up, the main event. We're talking tonight about patents. We have some excellent guests with us tonight. Josh Malone and Doug Wember with Burr. I want to start this off by kind of preferencing when I first got involved with patent law. I've had patents since I don't know, early 2000, but I didn't really get concerned about it. Even after American Invents Act passed, I had witnessed the town councils and heard about it, and even questioned our local congressman why, but it really wasn't an issue until Randy Landrenew over here on the far right contacted me one day saying, did you hear what's going on? There's a bill called HR 9, and if this thing passes, they're going to actually be able to go after your investors because you lost your patent case and get them to pay for it if they've invested more than a certain percentage of your company. And this was just absurd to me. And I went to Washington, and it was the first time in history that Inventors had actually gone and sat in front of people, members of Congress, and voiced an opinion contrary to what they've been lobbied. Well, what this led to was that many others were concerned about this. Randy and Paul Laurenville and I joined together and formed what was called U.S. Inventors, and we went about making our voices heard and trying to protest the Congress and the Supreme Court. And along the ways, we met, he's now a dear friend of ours, Josh Malone, that you'll meet here in just a moment. Josh is the inventor of Bunch of Balloons. Josh was a very professional process engineer, organized
I'm
man.
pretty sure I'm here, but I'll wait for the intro.
All right. Well, Josh has come aboard U.S. Inventor. We have been in many events to try to stand up for inventors' rights. Josh was even in a movie called Invalidated, and we'll discuss tonight what this all came out. Josh invented the Bunch of Balloons product, and it got knocked off, and has been very disappointed with our patent system and is fighting to restore these rights. And U.S. Inventor has been blessed to have Josh's support and help. And along the way, some of the work they've done is to document some of the many thousands of inventors now that have lost their patents and have got that on their website. I was really delighted about a week ago because the Inspire event had both Randy and Josh and I on a panel where we got a chance to talk to over 500 people that were at that event that were tuning in to listen to what was going on in the world of patent rights. It was the 10-year anniversary of the passing of the American Invents Act. So we discussed what the impacts were and the unintended consequences. And lo and behold, we were so thrilled that we were actually joined by Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. And she joined our panel when we were live, and she repeated and chimed in exactly what our concerns were and how she saw that and respected what we were doing. And the ultimate honor was that the entire organization received this national, this congressional recognition for keeping ethical business practices among industry service providers. They acknowledge that. So tonight, again, we have Josh Malone, and joining Josh will be the partner with Burr Foreman, Doug Lineberry. So, gentlemen, welcome. Good to see you here.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks, Adrian.
We're going to moderate this. Actually, I've asked Tom to help me on this. I've delved into this in so many ways. It's hard for me sometimes to come back up and just come back to the general big question, like, you know, why are we still patenting things? Should we still be patenting things? What's still going on that's good, and what's going on that we need to be aware of? If we could just kind of touch on those topics, I'd be so delighted. And whoever would like to take a start on that first. And Tom, please.
Well, Josh, why don't you set the stage then, Josh? You know, as to where you are and what you're doing and your initial thoughts and current thoughts on where we find ourselves right now with intellectual property rights.
Happy to. Adrian, can I share my screen and I'll just step through my story real quick? Adrian, would you like the 5-minute version or the 10-minute version?
Look, I'd like to keep going all the way till 8 something. So we've got a whole hour here. Actually, the rest of the program is a repeat of a lot of things. So you're the prime
Okay.
subject for
Yeah.
tonight. So please, by all means, we're delighted to have you
You
speak
and
on.
Doug.
Yeah, you
Okay,
and Doug
sounds
both.
good. Thank you. Oops, what just happened there? Lost my. Am I still on for you guys?
Yes.
Yep. Yes, you are.
There we go. Okay. Okay, so I'm an inventor. I own it now. For a long while, I wasn't sure if I could claim that label. But I was in high tech for a number of years, most of a decade at Texas Instruments. I loved it. I was able to push the envelope in some cutting edge technologies. But then the organization grew quite large, and I had a lot of managers and bureaucracy and budgets, and I was starting to feel pretty constricted. So I quit and started my own business building stuff, gadgets and products and stuff. So one of my first products was a digital paper cutter called the Slice that cut out letters and shapes out of paper for crafting and card making and scrapbooking. That was quite an experience. I built it, it worked. People loved it, but no one wanted to pay me for it. So I spent about a year trying to secure a licensing agreement, and that's kind of, as an inventor, I think the licensing model is fantastic because, you know, why do you want to go into manufacturing and sales and distribution and marketing and finance and all that other stuff that that wasn't my area of expertise. So I did finally license it and sold quite a few products. Was able to pay back some bills and the investment. I went on to come up with a make your own toy bracelet product. Crashed and burned, totally missed the market, lost lots of money. Had some other ideas that never quite turned into products. Did a lot of consulting to pay the bills. And I had a great run. It was 7 years of living the dream. And but it wasn't paying the bills. I was going to go back to the corporate world. And boy, that was dreadful. Like I had lived this dream for 7 years. And then these job openings, like I couldn't find anything for a self-starter, wants to set his own project budgets, define the mission. Like there were they didn't have any jobs for guys like me. It was like do CAD design. I'm like, no, anyway, I was hating it. So I had a month left to try to one more thing, and I solved the water balloon problem. Here's a close-up of my technology if you haven't seen it. The key. So I tinkered for many years and many summers with, just off and on with different ideas. But it hit me, and probably you guys have had this feeling like there's got to be a better way. And I went from there to I know there's a better way, and by gosh, that's my mission, is to find it. And actually, it's interesting. I learned much later after that, as a result of my experience, that it really is about discovery. And as inventors, we're not so much creating as discovering how things work. And it goes back to even the Constitution. Our founders used the term discovery. It was for securing to inventors the exclusive right to their discoveries. And so that's a good way to describe what I was doing. I was searching for the solution on how to fill and seal water balloons efficiently. And a number of different approaches. I had landed on the idea of using an elastic ring to clench the neck of the balloon. And so I had a single balloon and a single O-ring at the time. And I put a tube in it to spread it open to create a passage for the water. And the other end of the tube, I had to connect to a water supply. And so I put a hole in, I took the cap that goes on the end of a garden hose and put a hole in it. And I was just about to glue the tube in, and it hit me that there's room for more tubes. And so I didn't even test my first one. I went ahead and created a prototype with 37 tubes and balloons, epoxied them in, and took it out and tried it. I'm just like, I'm going to go for it. And it worked. And so I didn't go back to the corporate world. Hold on, I need to share. I need to share the sound. And I raised enough money to do a Kickstarter, and here's my Kickstarter campaign. Let me see if I can play it for you.
Awesome.
You ready?
Now you're,
Whoa, where'd you get all those? It's Venture balloons. Let me show you. You just connect it to the hose. And then you turn on the water. And they all fill up at once. When they're full, you just give it a shake and they all fall off. They tie themselves? Yep, pretty cool, huh? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Josh Malone, inventor of Bunch of Balloons, the fastest and easiest way to make water balloons.
So yeah, I love that. That was my kids a few years ago.
cool.
So
What was your first target on that campaign?
this was well, there were two, right? One, I thought I wanted to raise $150,000 to get to the next level, but we set the goal at 10,000, which we blew through. Like, I think within the first hour we were past our goal, and we were over 100,000 by the end of the first day, and it was unbelievable the way this thing just took off. Like, it was a dream. I had friends that day, that week, that they said at work they didn't get any work done. They just kept hitting refresh on their video because they were watching our Kickstarter campaign. We're like, is this for real? And so it was, and it went viral. It was on the internet, on Gizmodo and BuzzFeed and Huffington Post. And by the second day, it was on Good Morning America and local TV, and the Today Show then calls and flies me out to New York City. I have a water balloon fight on national live TV in Times Square. Toy companies are calling, retailers want to order. I'm like, whoa, this is like, I've had a successful product before, but this is unheard of. And so we raised almost $1 million from 21,000 backers, and we were in business. I actually, at this point, was approached by a number of toy companies. And like I said, I think licensing is a great business model. And but I found there was a problem. I had some experience at this point, and I kind of knew the rules and manufacturing, design for manufacturing and the cost structure. And like, guys, this is, how are we going to build these? It takes half an hour to build a pack of balloons. Even in Asia, that's too much labor cost. And their answer was, most of the companies, not Zuru, the first company's answer was, well, we've got a factory in China. And I said, well, I've got a factory in China. What else you got? And they said, well, we've got a guy in China who will manage the factory. I'm like, I got a guy in China. What else you got? And they didn't have an answer. But then Zuru reached out. This is a family-owned business. They're originally from New Zealand. They relocated to southern China, where industry happens to be at this time. And they created an automation program. And so they pitched me on their idea of automating production. And that was my whole goal. But Kickstarter wasn't going to get me there. Like, this, in my mind, this was going to be a $10 million project. It was going to take 3 to 5 years to create this infrastructure, because I knew these things had to be built in an automated fashion. I had a general idea how. And Zuru said, oh, we don't just use cheap labor in China. We use like the best cream of the crop, top 1% of engineers, the highest technology if we have to import it from Japan or Taiwan. And we're going to automate this. And I flew out to meet with them. 3 days later, they showed me their design for this machinery. And I looked, and it's like they understood what they were doing, and they had done it before with other products. And they said, look, we can do this. It'll take us about 6 months. It'll probably be a $2 or $3 million capital investment. I'm like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. And so I signed the deal, and I helped them. They didn't need a whole lot of help. It was unbelievable. These guys are very capable, but they were totally wrong on their projections. It took them 7 months to stand up a factory, but it was awesome. It's like, there's a big like an 8-foot carousel, and it just indexes pneumatically. It goes around and around, and you feed parts in, and it just builds them up one step at a time. And after it makes one revolution, the robot, actually it does a tube. The robot picks it up and stuffs it in the connector, and it fills them up, and then it drops them on this conveyor belt. And so it was unbelievable. My product was running down this huge factory. Early on, it was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. And this is my invention, making millions of these things. They were awesome. This is a dream. Everything went like perfect. And you don't plan on this. This was my third or fourth attempt. Even then, I was very fortunate to have things go my way. And Zuru was an awesome partner. And it's a good thing because we got knocked off. So this is why I'm an expert on patents. Telebrands, as seen on TV, stole it, copied it, sent it to China, imported boatloads, and I found out, oh, this is their business model. And these guys have done this for 4 decades. They've been in over 100 patent litigations. There's been books written about them. By the way, guys, this is a microcosm of what goes on in all these other industries. The same thing that Telebrands does is what Microsoft and Apple are doing in high tech. It's what the automotive industry is doing. All these big corporations have realized that they can just poach inventions and there's no consequences. And that was true for Telebrands for 35 years. They put it on TV, they rolled it out in retail, just flat out copied it. We found out later in court, they actually surreptitiously backed my Kickstarter program. So I unknowingly sent them a first edition of my product. So they immediately turned around, changed the color, and launched their copy. The reason they can do this, well, one reason, and so now we'll get into intellectual property law. Other forms of intellectual property like copyrights and trademark, it's different. There can be criminal penalties. There's complete profit disgorgement as a penalty. There's enforcement agencies like the FBI can get involved, Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection. You have all this support structure, but with patents, your only remedy is a civil action in federal court. And so that's what they figured out. Like inventors and small businesses can't cope with the legal system. And they figured out how to make these cases. I know now, I had no idea at the time. It takes 15 years to resolve a patent case in court. It costs tens of millions of dollars. And so I didn't know it, but I just stepped into this incredibly insane system that is designed for multi-billion-dollar corporations. And that's the same, the Apple versus Samsung smartphone wars, the same system for you and I. And so we were fortunate. Zuru had some experience. So again, licensing, I could have taken this on my own and I would have been absolutely crushed. Zuru had a little bit of experience, a little bit of capital. We were able to hire a legal team and fight these guys. So they had to actually put on a defense. And I thought with a patent, the defense is, we went around the patent. We used a different technology. So we're not, we didn't violate it because we developed a different technology. That's not how they do it. I mean, they do say that, but the main argument now is instead of going around the patent, they go through it. And they say your patent's invalid, it was a mistake, and so we're not guilty. And so that's what they did. They hired an MIT professor, and he swore, Your Honor, no one knows when a balloon is substantially filled with water. And so because the patent's vague, it's invalid and we're not guilty. And then the MIT professor went on to say, it's obvious under section 103 because a person of ordinary skill would have combined garden sprinkler with some plumbing fittings with a gastric dietary balloon. And it's obvious under section 103. And then they had like 2 or 3 dozen other arguments that were worse. Those were their best arguments. We won a preliminary injunction because the federal judge didn't buy it. I thought we won at that point. I was like, we stopped them. Like no one's ever done. They only had one other preliminary injunction in their 35-year history. And that was against the Thigh Master in the 70s or 80s. They immediately appealed, relaunched this version 2, and on appeal, that was like $1 million. It took another 16 months, I think. They actually, the judge, it was good because the judge at the Federal Circuit Appellate Court laughed at them when he said their attorney when he said no one knows when a balloon is filled with water. So we won there. A few months later, we won an order from the judge that their arguments were frivolous, and so he sanctioned them, and they had to pay our attorney's fees. So again, it's not easy. This was a huge ordeal, very hard to get through, very fraught with peril. But we prevailed, except they were in 2011, Congress created a second patent court. It's an administrative tribunal inside the patent office. And so now the patent office on one side of the building does the examination, and if you meet their rigorous standards, they'll issue a patent. And now there's a new division of 250 administrative judges that sit in another wing of the building, and they invalidate patents. Google lobbied for this law, big tech lobbied for it. It was bipartisan, but they were in and out of the Obama White House famously 3 times a day. What a lot of people don't know is one of their agendas was to capture the patent office. So they convinced him to appoint the head of patents for Google to run the patent office. She hires these administrative judges, which are her attorney friends, and they were told patents block innovation and inventors are patent trolls, so you need to fix it. And so sure enough, they found mistakes in 84% of the 3,000 patents they've reviewed, and they're now in the business of invalidating patents. So where they got laughed at and sanctioned in a real court, they prevailed at the patent office, who had just issued my patent. They overruled the examiner and the federal judge and the appeals court, and they took it back because they said no one knows when a balloon is substantially filled with water. They went on to say that it's more likely than not obvious. We're going to have a trial. I think it's about then that I met Adrian. I'm like, this isn't working. I'm gonna go down just like every other inventor they've stolen from: the spin mop, the pet egg, the pocket hose, the Thigh Master, just to name a few. So I went to Washington. I did a few things before I burned my patent. I met with the chief of staff for the patent office. I went with Adrian, made the rounds on in the House of Representatives and the Senate. But eventually we gathered and we had a protest, which is just crazy. Like, I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. And it shocked the world. Like, this is America. Like, that's the one thing we thought worked in our country. And now people are burning their patents. They ended up making a documentary about this. This wasn't my plan, but what happened after this was informative. The president noticed what was going on. He called in the resignation of the head of patents for Google, who was a holdover. We got a new director of the patent office. I won an appeal. The PTAB got overturned by the appeals court. And finally, they actually changed the administrative judge who was on my case, put someone else in charge. And so I started winning back my patents after this, which wasn't the plan, but it actually worked. Like, they're like, we got to get rid of Josh, give him his patents back. It's not funny. I'm laughing now because I'm far removed from it, but it's really sad. It's a sad commentary on the state of our justice system. But I'll tell you, and meanwhile, we continue to pay the attorneys. It's about $75,000 every week. Closer, it's probably double that when you're getting close to a trial. And if you miss a week, you know, they're sending you the bill collectors, and you miss 2 weeks, they drop you and you're out of the case. And so just to stay alive, you got to keep paying the bills. So we were fortunate. We were able to sell enough product to pay the attorneys. And so after 4.5 years, I had deeper pockets and more political influence than the bad guys. And they couldn't afford to go on. It was hurting their bottom line. It was costing them so much to try to steal my technology that they came hand in hand and agreed to settle and pay us and be out of the market. And so that's messed up. That's a very broken system. Nothing like it in the entire world that costs this much, takes this long, has this much chaos. It's not the country I thought we had. And so that leads me to US Inventor. And you know, Adrian was an early member. I'd consider him a founding member. And they were there for me when I needed help. Patents have become political, and I wish it weren't that way, but that's the fact of the matter. And so now I realized it helped me. I got through my case, and then I've dedicated myself to this. I'm now a full-time volunteer working with other inventors, help them prepare for this, help them through it. We do a variety of activities to try to level the playing field and give inventors a fair shake. And we got a long ways to go, but we're making progress, I think. So sorry I took more time than I was supposed to, but we can have discussion now.
Josh, thank you for that recounting of our whole history here. And again, congratulations on your persistence for what you knew what was right. Yeah, with all those vivid memories, especially of standing in front of the patent office, that was surrealistic. But the fact of the matter is, we had to get the word out, and we had to make this known. And it's still the problem today is it's not the big item that people pay attention to in society. They know all about the celebrities' problems, but they don't know that their own kids' rights, their ideas have been lost, and all these issues. Well, thank you, Josh. And now it's time, if I can, Doug, can we turn it over to you and get some inputs and feedbacks from you? And Tom, what might we want to ask Doug in response to all of what we've just heard here?
Well, my first question would be, Doug, what did you hear? You know, when from Josh? You know, this is it's pretty substantial what Josh has been through and where he's been, where he is now. You know, from a practicing IP attorney and someone like yourself who's got a department of people working for you. What does that sound like to you, right?
You know, Josh, hell of an effort, my friend. I love the way that you persevered. I mean, you did what you had to do. I get it. And I represent big clients, so I guess maybe I'm the bad guy here. But I will tell you one thing, Josh. I pulled up the original patent, and I assume the original was the 066, the last 3 letters in it. Was that the one that sort of spurred everything? System and method for filling containers with fluids?
Yeah, that was the first one, yeah.
Yeah. What I would do on that one, and again, not knocking whoever did this, hindsight's always easiest at 2020 and 80,000 altitude, but I'm a big fan of both methods and inventions in a patent. And I'm also a big fan of claim diversity, because you're right. You know, hey, if somebody sues one of my clients, I'll look at those patents and I try to say, hey, are we infringing? Do we cover all this? But when I file a patent, one thing I like to do is to be very, very broad. I like to have a good broad claim set. And you've got one independent claim, and then it looks like 13 dependents that string off of it. You know, for patents guys, and especially one that, you know, in this case, Josh, by the way, my kids love your device. The balloon wars in our yard are awesome. So thank you. But I would tell you one thing for any inventor, you know, make certain that when you get that claim set, that it's not just a one and done. I mean, we as humans have this nasty tendency to cut a corner and be lazy. Go and make certain you've got a variety. You get 3 independent claims. Use them. Put them in there. You know, my God, file a con if you didn't get what you want. I know you guys are like, oh, this is money, money, money. But what we've got to look at is, yeah, there's some nasty freaking people out there. And I love the way Josh, you and Adrian have helped reshape the platform. I love this fact. I love the fact that y'all gone. And I know you guys are saying our system's broken, but y'all shown how we can fix it. And you've shown the ability of the small guy to take on the Goliaths of the world and eventually pursue. And I feel you. We are not cheap. I know we're not, and it sucks. But, Adrian, one of your first points was, do we still need patents? Unless you guys know some better magical system that'll cause a venture capitalist to invest, I don't. So we absolutely do still need them. As far as a linchpin for an invention, yeah. And to Brian's point earlier, confidentiality and trust are key points. If you're out there talking about your invention and you're not protecting yourself with like an NDA or an already filed provisional, you run the risk of this stuff happening anyway. In your case, Josh, it sounded like you did everything right, but you turned around and you just had one of the most obnoxious infringers in history go, wow, Josh has a good thing. We're going to steal it. And you definitely are an example of one of the most egregious forms of it, and that stinks. But for the small guy, for the guys just starting off like Josh was back in the day, take those precautions and understand that once you throw it out there, and again, guys, I'll tell you this, do you need a patent? If you want a third party to invest in it, yeah, you probably do. But if you want to do first on shelf and get it out there and try to run that gamut, there you are too. But if you obtain that patent, Josh, they've got to do what you did. I mean, you were the poster child for this. You went out there and you fought tooth and nail. And you said, I'm not taking this. I'm not going to put up with it. I am going to fight you guys and I'm going to prevail, which ultimately you did. And so I think a lot of people need to know that skin in the game is critical. Because sure, and as my point is, I'm getting more and more of this gray. I've gone very blunt with clients. And one of my first questions to them after what is your name is, why do you want a patent? What are we going to do with it? Because you need to know that. If you're going to manufacture it or you plan to sell it or something, it's got to be quality. It has to be. You want that patent to have diverse claim sets. You want to use a multitude of claims in it, a different form of claims. You want claims that differ from each other, have different scope. It's a lot harder to get around those. Like I've got one of my clients literally sent me a patent the other day, 2 pages long, one claim. I'm like, this thing's crap. And it was really easy just to get out the first one. And people were like, well, that's terrible. You're going to knock this person's patent. I'm like, well, person with that 2-page patent, and literally I'm talking the description, the background of the claims, all on 2 pages of a published patent out. That's not a good patent, but it did get allowed. And I understand y'all's fear about the tribunal being able to be used against you. But guys, let's be serious. These are government workers. They're not held to the highest standards of production quality in the known universe. So there probably are a lot that get through. And I've had clients hit with trolls before. We had a pharmaceutical product, we call it 12 years ago. It's basically salt and pepper to treat a horse, but they got a patent on it. And for us, you're in this sticky wicket of, hey, this troll's waving this thing in your face saying, hey, pay. And yeah, I'm kind of glad those things are there, Josh. I know it sucks that those guys flipped the script on you and said, I'm going to attack your patent. But it's also there to kind of defend against the trolls, because if they do have a weak patent, we've at least got the ability to attack that. But our main thing, though, to protect the small guy, protect that small inventor, is we got to start out, and we have from day 0, from day in -20, we have to be discreet. We have to know who we're talking to. And we need quality guys. The folks that use LegalZoom and stuff, it really hurts me to hear someone saying, I want the LegalZoom. Because when you hear about that entity, when you hear about the patents they put out, the typical client, Josh, they don't have your savvy. They don't have the ability to read this patent and understand it. They've not been through massive patent litigation and speak probably as well as any attorney does. They're just somebody who's got a great idea trying to get it protected, and they saw a commercial. And that is really one of the things that really burns me, is the fact that, hey, these guys are out there. We don't have people protecting the small guy. We've got guys preying on them. And then we've got the small guy thinking, hey, I've got a patent. I've got a patent that I can take out and do something with. But if it comes from those entities, it's probably not quality. And so that, to me, is one of the greatest sins. Hey, hire a patent attorney in your neighborhood, because guess what? If I screw up, malpractice, my state bar, there are plenty of ways to go after me if I do something utterly stupid. But you use these sort of anonymous entities, and you deal with some attorney who's probably not there in 6 months. What is their impetus for quality? And I just think it's lacking. But to go back to your questions, though, Adrian, do we need them? Absolutely. There's no better game in town. If you want to do first on shelf, absolutely, but understand you don't have that protection. And once it's out on that shelf for a year, you can never get that protection unless you come up with some advanced insight to it or advanced improvement over it. And one thing too, guys, and I love this fact that Josh, you and Adrian both in your respective careers have gone to the patent office. They just had another comment section that ended September 17th on essentially computer arts, AI, computers, going back to the Alice case and checking it out. So we'll have to see what that commentary was. Again, it just ended a little over a month ago, but I do love the fact that the office puts it out there and that we as Americans have the ability to go in there and say, look, I don't like this. I don't like that. I'm with you guys. I think criminal penalties in a patent application in a patent infringement suit would be freaking awesome. Because then the people that you dealt with, Josh, if you're serving time in the Crowbar Hotel, maybe you don't infringe that next patent, And I get it. We don't have them, but that is very frustrating to me as a practitioner that I feel that there's not the teeth in it, Adrian, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, the issues about injunctive relief are certainly a concern, and the whole issue that you now have to be a producing entity and in fact can have your patents challenged because you can't outproduce your the person who's knocking you off. That doesn't make any sense to me, and it's actually very disconcerting to an inventor when he knows that he doesn't have a marketing team yet, he doesn't have a manufacturing company, he puts his product out there, it gets knocked off, but they'll give the benefit to the person who's infringing on him because he's not doing the public as much good. Isn't that the gist of the way the system works now, Josh?
Yeah, are you talking about like the well, specifically with respect to injunctive relief? That's the new test under eBay in 2006. So I mentioned the problems created by Congress in 2011. Similarly, the Supreme Court, starting in 2006, in the eBay case, a patent was always like a property right, and infringement was like trespassing. So when someone intrudes on your property, what is the remedy? Well, you evict them, you kick them off, you have them removed. And before 2006, that was how patents worked. It doesn't matter what you're doing with your property, it's yours. And if they want to use it, they have to get your permission. But the Supreme Court said, no, especially eBay. I mean, everyone uses eBay and we can't shut down eBay. And so they said, we're going to have compulsory licensing. We're going to let the judge decide who can use your invention. And we'll let the judge team up with an economist to decide how much it's worth. And that's how we'll handle it from now on. And so that's where the public interest test came from, balance of hardships. They created out of thin air a new standard for being able to use your patent, which on the cover of the patent, it says the person holding the title to this patent has the right to exclude all others from using, making, selling, offering to sell the claimed invention. The Supreme Court in 2006 said, no, it's not. We'll decide who can use it. And if they're a real big company, they can use it. If they can sell more products than you, they can use it. If they can sell it at a cheaper price than you, they can use it. So yeah, that was the new doctrine. A lot of that, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. There was some propaganda behind that mindset, but it's unfortunately become very prevalent since then.
Well, we're talking about the troll narrative as a whole, aren't we? The troll narrative is what instigated this whole thing was the concept that somebody can secure intellectual property but not produce it. When the big companies are out there trying to produce it, they'll see somebody who's legitimately asking for their fair share of compensation. They call these people trolls because they didn't produce those things. They just came out of the woodwork. And in fact, this is the American way. When you have an invention, you're proud of it, but you can't produce it. You don't have the marketing team. You don't have the manufacturing capabilities. You're trying to find those connections. Yet somebody can take advantage of your situation now, swoop in and knock you off and not have to pay any consequences to it is not what any one of our founding fathers had in mind, I think, when they founded our system. Doug?
Yeah, and I think, maybe I had an advantage because Zuber wasn't as familiar with our laws, being an international company. I don't know why they didn't just take it, because I couldn't have built that factory in 6 months like they did. But if they had done that and just stolen it and built the factory, they could have gone to the judge and say, hey, Josh didn't do anything of value. Look, we did all the value. And so, we'll pay him a reasonable royalty. And then the economist decides how much they have to pay me. And so anyway, yeah, that's kind of silly to require that I have to be able to build a robotic factory in order to enjoy my rights as an inventor. That would be a high bar.
Yeah, indeed.
To the two of you, I'm flabbergasted. I've seen I've watched Larry sitting there shaking his head, back and forth here, for the last 15 minutes or so, and I'm just flabbergasted. But where does it go from here? As you look tomorrow, Doug, and you got clients coming in to talk with you about patents, you talk about their intellectual property rights, trademarks, copyrights, patents, and knowing where you are right now, Josh, and where the PTAB is and everything else. How do you look at tomorrow and put one foot in front of the other? Why should I be excited about getting a patent now? Is it why is that?
You don't play the lottery, Tom?
Only when it gets up to a couple $100 million.
You don't play the slot machines?
Worthwhile. Okay.
Because you could win. You might win like I did.
Yeah.
No.
Guys, remember one thing too. We have found that NPEs are able to get injunctions. We've seen some case law thawing on that. So I do think, and again, remember, yes, the eBay case is brand new. Hell, people are still bad about Alice. And so what we've got to look at is the evolution of case law, because there have been NPEs get injunctions since then. So it is not some insurmountable burden for us to say, oh no, you'll never get an injunction, but you got to try. And Tom, you have a perfect question. And I do think the answer to it is a big boy game. And you better be prepared to have to do what Josh did. You better be able to have the stomach to duke it out, because if you can't, find something else. And should we avoid getting patents? No, not unless we really want our clients to turn on us, because unfortunately that is still the basis for it. But I hear where you guys are coming from. Y'all dealt with it, you've seen the inside of it, but also cases are becoming more friendly to that, shall we call it, the innocent NPE. Because guys, when I used the troll, what my troll was literally just a cabal of venture capitalists that bought up a litany of patents. They had no intention of doing anything to help industry, to help anything else in commerce. They simply said, you've got something we think it infringes, you pay us money. And that is the purest form of the troll, not the small person who has just gotten started. It was never engineered for them. And I know y'all are right. Sometimes, unfortunately, they're cannon fodder in the grist. But we are seeing where cases have awarded NPEs injunctions now. So I think we're finding a more nuanced approach, but it's due to y'all's action. It's the Joshes of the world who've been out there educating on this, the Adrians of the world who've gone out and said it. So, don't go burn down the patent office. You still need it, believe it or not. And if you still want to have a business and you want somebody to take you as a sophisticated entrepreneur, you still need those protections. Because trust you me, you try to do it first on shelf, and it's the state-of-the-art technology. Josh, you're absolutely right. Those Chinese factories will be dishing out at a lot faster than any small NPE could while they're trying to become a practicing entity. So, do we burn down the patent office? Do we siege Washington? No. It won't do us any good, because we have to have a viable alternative. We can't do those.
We didn't want to set a trap for Doug. We don't want to set a trap for Doug. And you almost stepped into it. So of course we're not going to stop inventing. Of course, we need patent protection. Of course, we want to be competitive in the world. And so we have to fix it, and we are fixing it. I mean, one example, we saw the eBay decision was 9-0. Alice decision, I think, was 9-0. KSR was 9-0. But by 2018, it was, and we've started participating. We were filing amicus briefs. We were creating a ruckus. We were getting this in the media. It was 7-2. We picked up 2 votes. It's a long process. And then this year, just a few months ago, it was a 3-3-3 split is how I'll describe it on appointments clause. So in fact, they found in our favor that the PTAB was unconstitutional, 5-4. We won the first half of the decision. The remedy was really bad. So we're moving the needle where we're working with the patent office on the regulatory side. We're working with Congress on legislation, which who knows? I mean, Congress can't seem to do anything productive, but we're there and we're fighting. And so inventors are actually getting involved. I mean, they're learning. We're having these events all across the country. So we can't stop you from inventing. Some people might elect to give it away and not start down this path at this time. Some people might elect to keep it a trade secret. Check the do not publish box on your application. I know some inventors who are even giving up their priority date and filing a new application to avoid publication rather than have it issued.
Yeah, you're right, Josh. Those are viable options, but even if you click on do not publish, if it issues, boom, there we go. So there are things, but unfortunately to the unsophisticated, be careful giving that advice, because a lot of people will think, oh, wait, you file a provisional, it disappears in the fog, no big deal. But if you would try to cover a utility, you better make certain you do it within the applicable timelines, because I think a lot of people too, and again, there's also that cardinal sin of assuming everything's a trade secret. Absolutely not. We all know the chemical industries are the hardest for that. It's really hard to re-engineer Coke. It just is. Chemicals are tough to reverse engineer, but a mechanical product or a widget, my God, we're all just as clever as somebody else. We could do that. And Josh, I love the fact that you're still filing patents. Even after what you've done, I was kind of checking your patent history. We're on here, and you still got fresh ones, man. Y'all got brand new ones that are still out there, and I love it. And I love the fact that we're not like, hey, destroy the system. We're like, it can be changed from within, but it takes a lot more Joshes and Adrians to do that. I think y'all's good word will help with it.
What's the alternative, guys? Right now, all right, I got somebody walk in my office tomorrow that's invented a new thing, all right, and it meets all whatever the requirements are for having a patent. What do I tell them? What's the advice to the novice inventor?
To be a good shepherd, Tom, you can't say don't get a patent. That is dumb, because we do that. We're bad shepherds, because currently that's what we have. Maybe tomorrow we wake up and someone's come up with a new form of intellectual property that solves all issues. I don't know that it'll happen, but if somebody will walk into your office and try it and say, hey, here's what I've got. If it can be reverse engineered to somebody else, get a damn provisional filed and keep your mouth shut. Those are the 2 big things right there. Keep it so that nobody can get in there until you're ready for it. And granted, once it's on the market, just as Josh saw, the monsters can come out of the woods and grab it, but we also have to give them that warning too of, hey, you're going into a big game that has a big stakes. This is Vegas poker, really. And, Josh, you were joking about the lottery. Hell, it's a lottery going in front of the PTO just to see if you can get the patent. There's no guarantee, but I do think we do a good job. And Josh, I think, is a perfect example of look what someone had to go through to protect their rights. And if you're not willing to do that, maybe the inventorship game is not for you. And I know that sounds harsh, but I do think we have a lot of naivete in the young inventor ranks and the small inventor ranks that think, I literally heard this a couple of weeks ago from a brand new client. He said, all I want to happen is I get my patent and somebody else does everything else. And I had to break it down for him. It's like, these patents, guys, are blood, sweat, and tears. Patent's a piece of paper. It's got some numbered limitations at the end of it. That's really where it stops. And a lot of it is Josh going in there trying to figure out, hey, how do I get this made? How does the prototype work? What's going on? And we have to inform people, just as good stewards of intellectual property, that, hey, this is not just some magic piece of paper and whoa, here comes everybody to help. It's a haul. It's a ladder climbing, just like Josh had to do.
Now,
I think that, you know, I'll maybe use Adrian as an example here. I know he's working, he's cooking up a lot of stuff, and he's not telling us about all of it. But, you know, you can, if you solve a problem and you can put that, you could put that in essentially a black box, and you can go, and step one would be to find an audience, find someone in this market that wants this solution, and say, here's how, you know, I've solved it. No, don't tell them, sorry, let me back up. So I've solved this problem. You input this and it outputs this, and you get them interested enough at the first stage to say, okay, I'll sign your NDA, because most companies aren't going to sign a real NDA without until they have some confidence that you have something worth looking at. So you can somehow, and you can also do that through your network. You can find a network that can increase your credibility, so you can get the open innovation or the technology manager to sign your NDA. And it's got to be a good one. Come talk to me before you do that, or probably Doug could help you with that as well. And then show them what you invented. And so then you can do a deal with this one company, but again, this is not ideal, right? Because now you're pitching one company. There's a lot of friction in that pitch, and you can do that again and again under real tight NDAs. That's one way to approach this. If you've got a really good idea, it really solves a problem, then lock it up under, because trade secret law is very rigid. Instead, there are criminal penalties if they break your trade secret. So that's a great hammer to hold over them.
And Adrian,
but again, that works against the purpose of the patent system, which is remote disclosure and dissemination of information. There's an anecdote about technologies invented in the Middle Ages. There was this one family, like a society, like a secret society, this family of physicians that the rich, wealthy people would call every time they had a mother in distress. They would call this family in. They would go into the room, close the door, put up a curtain, and they'd bring back a healthy baby, and mom's okay. And they did this for centuries, for like 300 or 400 years. This family of physicians was passing on this secret technology that was saving distressed childbirth. And finally, it came out somehow that this guy had invented the forceps, and no one had access to it because had they given it away, everyone would have been able to reverse engineer it and profit from it. So they didn't have a patent system, and kind of we don't either in a way. So that's kind of where we're having to hedge. You know, do you want to disclose your technology, or do you want to lock it up? And again, if it is a physical device, I hear you, Doug. It can be reverse engineered, but you know, if you do that deal with a big enough player in the industry, you know, maybe they'll pay you a decent royalty, and that's enough of an advantage for them to bring your product to market.
Another option too, Josh, you know, it's never get provisional. You know, if we're going to get an NDA, there better have been a provisional filed before that, because I'm a big belt and suspenders fan. You know, if we're going to go talk to somebody, because look, hey, Josh, you dealt with a scumbag. You saw what it was like when somebody just breaks all the rules and comes at you. But like you just said too, hedge our bets. You know, let's make certain we've got this thing covered, because we can black box it and hide the forceps.
Okay, I'm with you on. Okay, so that's another great strategy. And here's the version I would approach. A lot of people don't know this. You can hedge without having a patent. If you have a provisional, and then at 1 year you have a non-provisional, and you're golden. You can keep that, and you can control your budget as well. If you work with the patent office and you drag it out, getting the patent issued isn't so important. But having a priority date with a well-written disclosure you're covered. Like, you can get a patent on that 10 years, 15 years down the road if you keep your application pending. It's a complicated concept, but if you have a pending application, you can do that on a smaller budget. And this is something, Adrian, we want to work on at US Inventors, is these best practices for people.
Yeah, you
You
guys
can preserve that. You can preserve your rights in that sense. And then if it is a blockbuster, or if we do improve the patent system through advocacy and lobbying, then you've reserved your right to get a patent dated 2021.
Right.
Guys, I had a client just
Actually,
today-
in a process like this, actually, with one of my product ideas, I took the course of actually doing the PCT filing. And the PCT filing gave me, what was it, like 30 months, and then I got to be able to choose which corporate country, and then opted for the US market. And so this has been able to keep this in a basically provisional stage now, so that we can
It's
build up
it's super sophisticated. We need to find a way to boil it, to distill it for the average inventor, so he doesn't spend 10 or 15 grand getting a patent with really narrow claims that he doesn't need and can't use. If we can somehow teach him to preserve his rights using this methodology, that would have a lot of value.
Yeah, cons and sips, guys. I mean, that's the magic. And you will say that, especially the small inventor guys. You know, one thing too, it's expensive and slow. You know, that is a critical thing to tell the young inventor, the small company, is that, hey, you know, these things don't turn around. And my God, COVID has slowed it down even further. You know, we're now pushed back 6 to 8 months from what we were beforehand. But I'm with you guys, you know, because
that's not a bad thing. I mean, we need to somehow show people that's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of people are like, hurry up, I want my patent, as if something magic's going to happen when it issues. If we can say, as long as you got your patent pending, you're good. Save your money.
Well, and like you said, Josh, good if it's done right. You know, don't file a crap one and suspect that everything's going to end up well. It won't. You know, file a strong one. And what I would do is suggest to have a robust set of claims in that provisional, just so people can see what you're aiming at, you know, because we all know those claims aren't worth a $1 and spit, but when they're there, it gives the person looking at it, the venture capitalist or whoever it is reviewing the patent, the knowledge of what you're trying to do, where you're trying to hone with it. And again, guys, you know, if we tell them about cons and SIPs, we need to tell them about claim differentiation, because those are some primary weapons. The more robust that claim set, and guys, you get 3 independent claims for free, put them in there. It makes it harder to look at a patent. You know, and the one thing too, guys, remember, we're encouraged to design around. You know, that is part of the tenet of the patent office is, hey, you know, if somebody sees your patent and can figure out a way around it, not stealing it like you saw, Josh, but a way to design around it, fully encouraged. But a way to prevent that is to have a very robust specification with a very robust claim set. But you guys are right. There's so many folks that we need to educate.
Yeah, but you know, Doug, they go in no matter. I spent months and months writing claims, and it doesn't matter what you and the examiner mean and what a person with ordinary skill means. They're going to hire an expert to lie about what your claims mean, and they're going to go to a Markman hearing, and they're going to either blow a hole in it because they're going to construe it narrowly, or they're going to say you claimed something that existed before by construing it broadly. And there's just too much gamesmanship throughout this system. It's never been simple, but it's never been this Kafkaesque. It's just like for the way, and they can now go in one venue and argue for a broad claim construction, and go to another venue and impeach themselves and argue for a different claim construction. It's just what you're saying is correct, but it's not. When it goes to litigation, none of that counts. I mean, they are changing the laws.
Hey, Josh, if you don't have that robust spec and those robust claims, it won't matter in litigation. You know,
Yeah.
cart, horse, it's kind of like
necessary but not sufficient is what you're saying.
Well, guess
Yeah.
what? You know, and it's all based on claims too, because I'm pretty good at getting stuff allowed. I mean, Ledbetter's known me for several years, and I talk paint off the wall. And I've got litigators that can do the same thing too. But we need to understand the workings of the system. And Josh, you're perfect at this. You can go and explain to people, hey, I learned this through the blood, sweat, tears, and money method, and have people understand it. But you know, we can't denigrate a system without offering an opportunity.
So my first patent was my narrowest, right? This is one model, and it's one that, in my case, it was necessary, is get the first claim set the examiner will allow that reasonably covers the commercial embodiment of your invention. We call it a picture claim. Usually that's the fastest and easiest to get, and then you go back and get you broaden your scope and continuations until you get as much of the scope as you're entitled to. But what happened to me is they invalidated my first patent, which was my narrowest.
Picture one. Yep.
And then my second, and then my third, and by the time I got to my fifth, I had my broadest patent, and they laid off it. They let me have it because they were sick of the politics and the
fight.
getting flamed.
Josh, too, remember one thing, the old picture claim thing, I will tell you this as a younger practitioner, that is from an age back, you know, kind of like the Jedi in a more heralded age. You don't want to go picture claim. I mean, you can have your third independent claim be a picture claim, that's perfect, but you want that broad, robust set. You know, you want a widget, you want a method of using it. You've got to be looking at broader systems. Our ancient practitioners, and God love them, they're the guys who really did bring this out. But I had to deal with one who had sent me a client from him, and his first.
It's also a practical matter. They had millions of units in the market while my patent was pending.
Oh, here you.
And so I had to take whatever I could get and then file my continuation and fight for it. I'm not going to go through an appeal and waste 3 years trying to get my first patent while they racked up 50 million in sales. I'm going to take whatever I can get that reads on their copy. That was a practice. It's not always the case, but that was the practical matter.
Let's get. Tom wants to get a question in here.
I have to say this to you, Josh. It's a form of a statement and a question. Listening to you, how far into this did you get before you started questioning your own sanity, or before your wife started questioning your sanity? And you know, did you ever just stop one day and say, "This ain't worth it"? You know, you've got the patience of Job to work through this stuff, and the continence of a granite quarry to stand up.
No, it's not that. You get, it's one step at a time, and you're so deep into it, you cannot turn back. You've seen the Robert Kearns Flash of Genius. I don't know how true to life that is, but I was living it, and I was going to go down. I mean, I was either going to be destroyed and that was the most likely outcome, is this just eats you alive. And there was no way to quit. I mean, this was my life's work, and my kids' college. Like, if I don't stop them,
Josh,
there was a horrifying moment when I got the letter from the PTAB, or I pulled it up on the docket, and they decided that patent number 2 and 3 were more likely than not obvious. And my life flashed before my eyes. I'm like, this is not going to turn out well. And I called up Paul, or Adrian and I's mutual friend. I said, you know, that time you mentioned burning your patents, it's time. And that was just like, I had no choice. One of us was going to be ruined. And for the first time, it was the bad guy.
Josh, the unfortunate thing is, again, coming back full circle, is now we have a system that's invalidated 84% of the inventors' patents that have in fact been subjected to this procedures. And so you were one of the fortunate ones, but you're only one of the 16% that actually had the wherewithal and the fortitude to stand up and keep going through the fight. As you've witnessed, and now we have the videotapes of so many thousands of inventors who have had their patent invalidated, they lost the rights and royalties to everything included. The images of those inventors is putting a fear in today's inventors as the whole community goes. And it's hard to, as a coach, when I have people come in my office, to be able to try to still be motivational and encouraging them to continue pursuing their dreams, but also being realistic with them in that, in fact, if we become successful enough, The systems now such a disgrace. They have a real fear to be attacked, and this is actually pushing some people to, one, not invent, two, not patent, just take a product to market and be first to market, and the heck with it, as long as they're out there before anybody else, which used to be a approach anyway, but it's more than ever now.
Yeah, and it's painful, but we have a lot of things going for us. We have our heritage and our, I think it's almost hereditary now that we're going to be inventors. And then, you know, imagine if we just woke up one day and we were living in Venezuela. What would we do? Would we just say, oh, I can't invent anymore because there's no rule of law and there's no justice? We would manage, like we're going to find a way. But not only that, we're fixing it. So help us fix it. I mean, hopefully tomorrow you guys are all going to call up Lindsey Graham and say, when, you know, what's up with this Leahy bill to put the PTAB on steroids? Can you give us a bill that protects our small businesses?
Why don't I do that? You know, when there's nothing keeping me from doing that, what do I need to say? Right? Can USI give me a platform?
USI has a platform, and Inventors Project with their petition is similar to try to get Leahy to reconsider his opinion on this, his statement on this right now.
Yeah.
Are we supporting of the Inventors Project's petition, Josh?
Yeah, sure. We already did a letter. We've circulated a letter. I was on the Hill today. You can see I'm still dressed up. So they've been getting an earful on this bill. So it'd be great Lindsey Graham's on the Judiciary Committee that will be voting on this bill soon. He would be really important to win over.
All right, well, tell me what I can do to help, Josh. You know, I was out a few years for my own health reasons, but I'm pumped up and primed, and you know, where I'm new. So I can go to the last rally, excuse me, but it's just in between two tough schedules. But I'd be happy to help again.
Yeah, you're on it.
Yeah, guys, quick break. Hey, Larry, did you have any questions? You've been so patient tonight.
Yeah, sorry.
I appreciate it. It's good to see all you guys anyway. And Josh, I just want to make a note. You by the way won the largest water balloon fight in the history of the United States. If there's an award that we can get you for that, I want to see that hanging out. But no, just, you know, I'm a small inventor here in Michigan. I'm also a U.S. Army veteran, a veteran like Adrian. Look, I signed on the dotted line to protect the Constitution, and so I'm fully committed, and I've really pulled back a lot of what I've been wanting to do just because of the lack of protection that is going on. I mean, for crying out loud, Josh, created a water balloon, product and had to spend $20 million to protect it. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, heaven forbid we get something that could, change the world, some type of technology, above and beyond that. I mean, it's just disheartening. But one thing I want to say is, and I think this is something that we really need to kind of hammer home. Imagine if all of the inventors were protected like we know they should and the way we feel that they should. Can you imagine the amount of tax base that would be created in this country? And the frustrating thing is, we used to be number one in innovation in the world. Now we're like number 9, and in my mind, that's just that's not acceptable. And look,
it's been interesting being involved in the policy area, and there's a lot of concern and fretting, rightly so, about China's advancement. There's concern about big tech consolidation and monopolization. And it's weird. It's like this, and then they're struggling to find solutions. They're coming up with these crazy bills. They're going to give more money to agencies and big corporations, and they're doing studies, and like we had the same problem in 1790. We were a colony that was destined to be overrun by huge superpowers, and we passed the first patent act that granted property rights to any he, she, or they who hath invented a new and useful technology. And it was radical, because the prevailing wisdom at the time was you had to be an elite to be an inventor. You had to have a PhD. You had to have huge finances and connections and laboratories. And our founders said, let's try democratizing invention. And they said, let's see what ordinary people can come up with: factory workers, farmers, housewives, school teachers, bicycle repairmen. And it was unbelievable. You look at what happened in the 1800s. We went from tiny colony destined to fail. In 3 generations, we were a superpower. And a lot of it was just pure accelerated innovation. And it was ordinary people and startups and small businesses and disruption. And it was chaos, but it was, and here we are again. Like, we have a formula, guys, and it's right there. Promote progress in useful arts by securing to inventors the exclusive right to their discoveries.
We got to get
and so I'm just dying to get for some members of Congress like Lindsey Graham to capture this vision and say, we can do this, and get rid of the stinking PTAB, issue patents correctly the first time to inventors that merit it. Quit handing them out to the big corporations and that badger the examiners until they get their engine. There was the 5G industry, the telecom industry. Ericsson was touting their platform patent that had 400 inventors on it, and they were actually advertising this. They had gone and written an engineering document, the specification for the 5G standard, and then they went and got a patent on it so that they could monetize it. So anyway, that's not the way the patent system is supposed to work. So anyway, sorry, I got on my soapbox, but we can do this.
Josh,
I'm hoping it's going to catch fire.
These last few minutes, I see a perfect example of an inventor who's disenchanted with a system and afraid that his own rights might be trampled. On the other side of it is the state of the union right now and the need for people to invent and to become entrepreneurial again, which was the basis for this whole country in the beginning. People saw a problem, they fixed it, and if they could commercialize it, they created a business. And then we got the rights to continue that. So we do see resurgence of the entrepreneurial spirit. Our 1 Million Cups meetings are jam-packed with people that are starting to come out and trying to show the community what they're working on and how they want to promote it in all different levels. So we have, and as my own product development business has been a barometer, because we do both design and assembly during different times of the economy. If the economy is great, we're assembling a lot, the design side is down, vice versa if the economy is bad. What we're witnessing right now is one of the greatest influxes of people coming in, looking to get things started that we had in our history. I sent out 7 new starter packages this week alone. It's just the phone machine's completely clogged up. Yes, we were a barometer. My little business in San Diego, I like to say, is a barometer of what's going to happen in the economy. What's going to happen here is going to explode, but the higher end products, the most technical, the ones most sophisticated, ones that really need the patent protection, that's the scary end. If they're not feeling secure here, where the investment money is going to go, it's still, in the circles I'm in, China. And we're not going to recover our economy completely with grassroots America building little widgets. It will take the new inventors and innovators that are creating the next Google and the next Facebook and the next systems that will supersede today's. And if those startups aren't given the rights that those companies had when they started, we won't see competition, we won't see fair play, and we'll see a continuation of these corporations ruling our system. So I'm all about helping what we're doing here with entrepreneurism and to strengthen our patent system as a whole. And guys, it's coming up to the 8:30 hour, which is was our time limit for tonight. But I'd like to close by leaving you both an opportunity to have any closing comments you like, and I'll let Josh go first.
Oh man, I just ran out. That was it. That was my encore.
That was a great shot. Great timing.
No, that's encouraging. I like what you said. The spirit is not even close to fading, and the spirit of entrepreneurship and being creative and solving problems and building businesses. It's very much there. It's ready to explode. I have my days where I think we're fighting a machine that is going to chew me up, but other days I'm like, nah, I think we can do this. So I think we're right for I guess a pivot or a revolution here in innovation. So I think it's going to happen.
Well, thank you for leading the charge, and your support group and base is growing every day with the awareness that is slowly spreading. So thank you for your continued commitment, Josh, and do count on me. So
What about you, Doug?
Tell you what, boys, don't be disappointed. I think Josh is on this. I have been busy since the beginning of COVID. It is not slowing down. If anything, getting busier. I think Josh is right. I think that groundswell is there. They need good shepherds. And I will again say that tonight. I think it's an organization like this that can really help these folks. And with the Joshes and the Adrians of the world acting as a shepherd over Congress and others, I think the future is bright. I am an optimist, believe it or not, as an attorney. But I do think that, hey, guys, we're still the #1 high economy base for innovation. So don't fall for these fallings in the rankings and such. Any number can be manipulated, but we are still the best game in town. I think we're always going to be the best game in town, but it's up to people like us to help maintain that.
All right. I just, I'm seeing it here. We've got this thing going on right now that everybody's calling the Great Resignation.
Heard of that?
And you got like 1/3 of the workforce right now is quitting their jobs, in order to go somewhere else for more money, better pay, or whatever. But nobody's ever seen anything like this before. But I don't know whether it's got anything to do with it or not. But the traffic through our office here, through our Center for Entrepreneurial Success, and people coming in with ideas and businesses they want to start and directions they want to take their existing business. I've not seen anything like it. I mean, we've been here 4 years, and we're busier now than we've been before. So
Tom, I think it's all due to you.
No, I don't think so. I think it is. I think it has to do with something going on here. It's got to do with 1 million cups. It's got to do with here in Columbia, Josh. We're the state capital. All right, so we've got the local government, county government, state government, federal government, and we have these rose-colored glasses on that everything we look at is through like a government lens. You go to other parts of the state up there where Doug is, or down in the Low Country around Charleston, it's more entrepreneurially, and not focused, but entrepreneurially visioned. But I'm seeing some of that visioning happening here, and it's very refreshing finally to see some of that. So anyway, thank you guys for your time this evening. I mean, we are at the end of the time, and Josh, I've got a new hero in my world right now. His name is Josh. All right, because I think it's just tremendous what you've done and what you persevered through to get done. And
show me the love by having Lindsey Graham get on the inventor rights bill. Make it your mission.
I will take that challenge. I will do what I can, but I will come back to you and confirm that I have had a conversation, not with one of his staffers, but with Lindsey Graham about this. Okay.
Yeah.
So Doug, keep it up there. Keep everything straight up in Greenville. You know, it's hard to do, I know, but come to see us down here in Columbia. I'll be calling you because I need to do an interview with you again for one of my classes, Doug.
Ledbetter, I'm gonna call you out on that. Time out, Ledbetter. Look, man, I know you're not working anymore because I was at Trident Tech back in September for Leadership South Carolina. I walked around like an idiot saying, "Where's Tom Ledbetter?" People are like, "He's not here. He's not here." I tried to track you down once already, fella. I'll get you.
Yeah. Okay.
He's hard man to find, but
Yeah.
he's busy.
All right. And Larry, thanks for dialing in. You know,
Absolutely.
and you know, the really nothing's disappointing about this evening except a little frustrating is that we don't have 50 people listening into this conversation.
We're working on
Yeah,
that.
we're working on
that.
We're working on that.
We
Well, I
finally
just
got the budget.
I just want to let you guys know I appreciate everything you guys do because you know little guys like me, you give me hope. So, you know, I'm doing what I can on my end, and you know I'm following your guys' lead. So keep up the good work, and there's really nothing more American or patriotic than what you guys are doing. So I'm all in.
Thank you for signing on the dotted line and doing what you were doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. That's it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you
All right.
very much for your
Get
time.
home safe.